the Middle East correspondent for the Jewish News Syndicate, Josh Hasten. Josh, thanks so much for coming on. So why are Israeli troops pressing so far into Lebanon? Is this a way to pressure Hezbollah into accepting or reaching a peace deal?
Yeah, absolutely. It's necessary at this point because Hezbollah is still standing, as you mentioned before. Yes, Israel has major accomplishments, taking out the head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, and now just taking out the head of propaganda overnight. But until Hezbollah is pushed back, and as long as they pose a threat to the state of Israel, if they're on our border, 80,000 Israelis right now are not in their homes. They've been evacuated from their homes. As long as another October 7th style massacre is an option, Israel must continue this war. So that is the main reason why it's continuing. I don't think we will see any type of ceasefire until Hezbollah no longer poses a threat. They have to move back north of the Litani River, which is about 18 miles or so north of the Israeli border. Until that happens, this war will continue.
And Hezbollah is continuing to fire projectiles at Israel, I think 60 yesterday. Where does this put a potential peace deal with Hezbollah right now? And also ceasefire with Hamas? I mean, is there a way, is this all on Hezbollah and Hamas, or is there something that Israel needs to do?
No, it's both on Hezbollah and Hamas. If you're talking about Hamas, I mean, they're still holding 101 Israelis as hostages down there. And Hezbollah, it continues, as you mentioned. I mean, it's an hourly attacks. Rocket attacks, missile attacks, drone attacks against the state of Israel. As long as they pose a threat to the state of Israel, the war will continue. So we could talk about all of these talks. By the way, if you're talking about Hamas, they've rejected every single offer Israel's put on the table. And Hezbollah right now continues to pose a serious threat. We cannot have another October 7th. That's the bottom line. So this will continue. I know their negotiations are taking place in different cities across the world. But until these two entities, and remember, Iran is the head of the snake here, the head of the octopus. These are both terror proxies of Iran, and Israel's attacked Iran, of course, last month. Iran eventually will have to be dealt with. They are aiming for nuclear weapons. They pose a threat not only to the state of Israel, but to the United States. They view us as the little Satan. They view the U.S. as the big Satan. So all these issues have to be dealt with. Israel's fighting a war on 7 different fronts, and we must be victorious at the end of the day.
Just to be clear, though, what are the conditions that Iran and Hezbollah are hoping for if there is some sort of peace or ceasefire when it comes to Lebanon?
Well, Hezbollah and Iran, they want to destroy the state of Israel right now. I mean, things have changed now with the election of Donald Trump. We're sort of in this gap period, the 60-day period until Trump actually becomes president. But this is the Middle East here, where strength is respected and weakness is stepped upon. I think the Iranians realize that President Trump means business, and they're not going to be able to carry out these policies of attacks directly against the state of Israel. It's going to be much harder to fund their proxies throughout Israel, northern Israel rather, and throughout the world. I think it's a whole new ball game now that President Trump is going to take over. I think we're going to see that on the ground. Iran is going to want to negotiate much more now. They may not like President Trump, but they respect him certainly. And I think that changes things very, very much.
Before we get to the incoming president, the current administration, President Joe Biden, what do you think about their response to what has been happening with Israel and Lebanon, this escalating conflict?
Well, let's make it clear. The United States is Israel's best friend. There's no doubt about it. We know we have the support of the American people. And with the administration, and unfortunately right now, when it comes to Hezbollah, or Hamas, rather, they're trying to call for an immediate ceasefire. An immediate ceasefire, as one of my colleagues said today, you can't leave a forest fire 60% 60% extinguished. If you still have 40% out there, then it just will lead to burning down the entire place. So Israel has to deal with this 100%. You cannot leave Hamas or Hezbollah with the ability to, in a year from now, 5 years from now, to go back to the same situation where they can carry out missile attacks, drone attacks, or launch another October 7th style massacre. So that is the situation right now.
By the way, as we're looking at this live look of President Biden deplaning into Brazil, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about was that the Trump transition team is reportedly compiling a list of U.S. military officials who were in that, what we can all say objectively was a terrible withdrawal from Afghanistan. It's been an indictment on the Biden administration, and maybe intending to even throw out court-martial charges against them. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that was a tragic, tragic pullout there, Afghanistan. Complete chaos there. We saw the death of 13 U.S. servicemen, over 100 civilians there at the airport. I just saw a documentary on this just several weeks ago. So again, this is in this region of the world. There it's the Taliban. Here you're dealing with Iran. Strength is respected and weakness is stomped upon. So that was a horrible, horrible scene there for the United States, and it sent a message to the enemies of the Western world that if you push hard enough, there will be a withdrawal, that we will pull back, that the Western world will pull back. So it was a terrible message sent to the Iranians. It emboldened the Iranians, and we can't have that right here. We can't have that now here in the Middle East as Iran is trying to go nuclear.
Well, let's see what happens with that. It'll be quite the response from the Trump administration. Middle East correspondent for the Jewish News Syndicate, Josh Hasten, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.